Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 15th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. Here we have BC, Washington, Oregon, Hawaiian Islands. If you look closely here, you can see our very weak system coming our way here across the Pacific Northwest, shown nicely on the mid-level water vapor loop. And then we're going to open up a trough along the west coast here. It's going to bring a storm that's going to bring some nice precipitation down through portions of California, maybe even clip southwest Oregon here. But BC is going to be the general precipitation winner out of this system as it slides through first, although we may get a convergence zone across the central Puget Sound in some areas of western Washington. Might pick up a little bit of precipitation here on Friday evening. Now, taking a look at tropical system here, Merbach, the ex-typhoon here, is now going through its extratropical transition. It's becoming a mid-latitude cyclone, which means it's getting its energy source from the contrast between the colder air aloft and across the polar areas and the warmer subtropical and tropical moisture that it brings up with it. Aleutian Islands are here. They're used to these strong storms here, although it is a little bit early in the season. The main weather maker out of this is that it's going to bring a very deep low across the Bering Sea, which is much more of an unusual track versus big storms here off the Aleutian Islands. Looking at the high winds here from Shemya to Atka, ADAC is out here. We fly out to ADAC for Alaska Airlines. We do not have a flight today, which is probably a good thing, with gusts to 85 miles per hour. Again, they are used to these kind of storms across the Aleutian Islands, although it is early in the season. Now, the big impact here is for like the Delta Coast here, Bethel, Newtok, areas along the coastline here, 4 to 7 feet above the normal highest tide line. Wind gusts to 80 miles per hour. They can do some damage to these sensitive areas along the coastlines here. You get some coastal erosion here that, it can really hammer the wildlife out there. But anyway, back to the Pacific Northwest here. As we go through the day today, you can kind of see this shows the nice timing here as when the thunderstorms are going to pop up generally after 1 p.m. and start to lay down a bit as we go into the evening hours, and probably around 2 of this tomorrow for thunderstorms across extreme eastern Oregon, Idaho, and western Montana. Checking out SeaTac yesterday, 70 degrees. That's 4 days below average, and we're probably going to remain below average through this weekend here as that trough moves through. Then we're going to probably warm up a bit again next week. We'll take a look at that coming up here. Here's the HER 3KM, the 12Z run. The general story here is that eastern Washington is going to get a break from some of its surface smoke. You can see the Cedar Creek fire, burning across the central Oregon Cascades. So if you're downwind of that, you probably know why you're getting that surface smoke there. Check out these California fires going here. The system that moves down here may bring some really beneficial rain to this area and start to quench some of these fires here. Let's hope that it does. Here's the NAM 3KM 12Z. This is hot off the presses here. You can see that precipitation increase as we go in through tomorrow. And tomorrow evening, you can kind of see that highlight of convergent zone across the central sound there. Some nice precipitation mounts across eastern British Columbia. And if we look offshore here, there's that system we were hoping would come through western Washington, Oregon a bit more directly as it slides down. It's going to park off the California coast here. It still may bring some beneficial rains to southwest Oregon, though, and some of the Oregon Cascades. We'll take a look at that and some of the extended runs here in a moment. Here's the HER 3KM. Looking for that convergent zone. Do we see it? We do. As we go through Friday afternoon and evening, it does sag down south around Seattle a little bit there. So fingers crossed there. It might get enough to water the garden and the lawns for some areas, maybe even a little bit locally, some more heavier amounts across the convergent zone as well there even. So fingers crossed there. Now looking at the NAM 3KM here. Total precipitation in inches. I'm going to go scroll ahead here, and you can see some locally fairly heavy amounts here, up over a half an inch possible across some of this convergent zone activity through Saturday morning. And of course, the Cascades and some of the Olympic Mountains would be a little bit more of a winner precipitation-wise there. Now, here we're looking at the NAM 3KM, and checking out the winds, you can see kind of a classic convergent zone. Not a classic, but it is a convergent zone signature as we move through Friday afternoon. There comes that burst down the Chehalis Gap here, meeting up with these westerlies through the Strait of Juan de Fuca. As this system pulls across the area, it's bringing this strong onshore flow, which tends to bring these convergent zones across the Puget Sound here. So hopefully this pans out and we do bring some precipitation across the Puget Sound here. So this is looking at the European here. Now let's take a look. Total precipitation inches. We're just going to let this run out here. You can see this initial system, mainly BC, the Cascades, doesn't really show too much on the European here for the convergent zone. So we'll see if that can outdo the high resolution models. But look at some of this precipitation across eastern BC. Very nice. Now, as this dives down towards California here, you can really see this kind of park off the coastline and bring a little bit of precipitation to the Sierra Nevadas here, maybe to help squelch some of those fires. And as this upper level low then starts to eject up in northeast, it might bring some beneficial rain across the central Oregon Cascades, maybe even up towards the Washington border here. But really kind of leaves Washington, western Washington, Oregon high and dry through the extended here. Not much help precipitation-wise according to the European, but it could bring some beneficial rains mainly to Oregon there. Now checking out what the GFS says, a wider look here, North America, Alaska, BC, Washington. You can see that weak system slide through here through Friday evening to Saturday morning. You can see a system kind of slide by and just kind of wave at western Washington and western Oregon as it goes by. But you can see some southerly defluent flow and some wraparound moisture may bring some precipitation to the Oregon Cascades as this system hangs out off the California coast, bringing some very needed precipitation. Then this low that's kind of cut off at this point will eject northeastward. Maybe we'll get some more precipitation across Oregon, eastern Washington with that. Fingers crossed there. And look at the GFS in the extended, kind of showing some of this active Gulf of Alaska troughing going on here, bringing some precipitation into BC. And this is so far out there at this point. This is something we'll just kind of watch here off into the extended. Now looking at the GFS 500 millibar heights. So we play this through. There goes the initial system for tomorrow. Then the system that dives down off the coast of California here. We're going to warm back up across some of the area here through mid next week as you can see that ridging. But we're not going to get that warm. No hot days coming up here. And you can see this ridge try to build through next week and across the region here, but you can still see some troughing interrupting this ridge development here. And then maybe the Gulf of Alaska getting more active through the extended here. So we'll continue to watch that, but there are a couple more periods of warm weather possible in through our extended forecast here across the Pacific Northwest. Here's the European control. There goes the initial system Friday, the California system. And the ridge starts to try to build, but this upper level trough probably not going to allow it to take too much form over us. But then as we go through next weekend, this ridge tries to build over us too. But again, it kind of kicks out pretty quickly as this troughing quickly erases it and would bring some marine influence across the region here. So probably no heat wave coming up here, but above average temperature is definitely possible. And then you can see even on the European control run does show an active Gulf of Alaska trough here as we go through the end of September. But we'll continue to watch that. We're getting way too far out in the forecast to start banking on anything at this point. Look at the trough come through this weekend, maybe highs only into the 60s on Saturday. Then we bounce back into the 70s again through next week here. And then maybe even a little bit warmer for the weekend here. No heat wave or hot days look possible at this point. I mean, the control run does show some temperatures into the 80s here. I kind of doubt that at this point. We'll have to wait for this to get closer. This is September 25th and 26th at this point. Way too far out there to start banking on this, but you can see the mean much more reasonable back down in towards the 70s for SeaTac. This is for Medford. Trough swings by, then we bounce back a bit, then maybe some warmth coming up through the extended here. We'll continue to watch that day by day. Here goes Kamloops, eastern BC at 25 to 77. You can see the extended starts to get back up into the 70s here. But look at some of these chilly temperatures as this system moves through here. I mean, 15 is 59 Fahrenheit. Highs only into the 50s there on Saturday. Pretty chilly coming up here for Kamloops, British Columbia. Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. This is the European last night's 06Z run. Generally, the mean is below 0.05 of an inch here. So, but, we take whatever we can get with this pattern coming up here. Not very favorable for precipitation in western Washington. Few of the members have 1/10 of an inch here showing up. But anyway, not much of a signal. Now, what everybody wants to hear about seasonal outlooks here. This is for October, November, December. You can see the above average signal for the Pacific Northwest. Jumping ahead a little bit more here, December, January, February. Again, this is hot off the presses today. You can see this below average signal here across Pacific Northwest. Cross your fingers, lowland snow lovers here. And as we go through December, January, and February, kind of the precipitation signal more off to the east. Equal chances across much of western Washington and Oregon. January, February, March, again with that signal below average here. So who knows, maybe we'll get another snowy February coming up here. Fingers crossed. And this is for January, February, March, again with the signal off in through Montana. February, March, April. And so It's worth mentioning that this is based off the La Nina pattern right now. This forecast is heavily based off of what La Nina is showing right now and the potential that it will move on. It will exist through much of the winter coming up here, folks. So anyway, you got to take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, this forecast is way out there, but we do have above average chances for below average temperatures coming across the Pacific Northwest here due to the La Nina pattern here. And this goes all the way into spring here. I mean, just take that with a grain of salt. Will we be dealing with another cool start to spring? Who knows? But anyway, yeah, so here comes the system rolling through Friday, and this is going to keep us pretty chilly around much of the Pacific Northwest through this weekend. But we are going to warm back up again next week. Above average temperatures are coming. No heat waves, no hot days look imminent at this point. We'll continue to watch that often through the extended forecast. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Leave some comments. Let me know what else you guys want to see. And we're still kind of dealing with a dull weather period here coming up. But this is going to change as we get in towards later September, October, November, as the storm systems will arrive here across the Pacific Northwest. And the windstorm chances will rise. And then eventually we'll start to look at atmospheric rivers, precipitation totals, mountain snow, and then maybe even some lowland snow as we get towards the winter. And like I said, I may do if we're start to look at some really active weather periods, windstorms, atmospheric rivers, lowland snow, unusual weather phenomena, I will do 1 or 2 of these briefings a day possibly. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying these videos, and we'll do this again tomorrow.